quite honestly, I love the fact that there is this increased shift and recognition by the toy making market that so much. I mean, because it's been a solid decade, right? And I'd argue a good solid fucking 2 decades, right? But no one can argue with me. Not one person could argue with me. A solid decade of the greater majority of the toy market is really not kids, right? It's adults. It's whether it's people who are just buying up the latest trend, the latest fad toy, or if it's genuine collectors or people who buy up so that they can sell a small amount. They can buy up a small amount and sell to collectors. So many adults buying just merch because, as we always like to say, right? Everybody.
Baby, I gotta interrupt.
No, go for it. Go.
They made a whole movie on this premise, the Lego movie.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, right.
The Lego movie is based on the dad, because there's the scene, I don't know, beginning or end or whatever, where the kid is like, but we bought it at a toy store.
We bought it at a toy store.
These are not toys, but we bought it at a toy store.
The box says 6 and up.
I'm like, this is, I mean,
that's what's he say?
Was definitely
yeah, right. What's the Will Ferrell character say? He's got some defense. He's like, that's a suggestion or something like that. Yeah, what? That's right?
Just suggestion.
And we say a Modern Family makes that reference too, right? Where Jay's got his remote control planes, and Manny wants to play with them, right? And he's like, no, these are sophisticated. And the kid's like, he grabs the side of the box. He's like, the box says 12 and up or whatnot. He's like, what? And Jay's like, that's got to be a mistake, right? Because you forget that so many adults buy toys in their various forms and shapes. I mean, fuck. Remember way back when people went into a Pez collecting frenzy, right? Like, the little plastic dispenser of the shittiest fucking candy to be made, right? Just one of those horrible candies, right? And don't get me wrong, I love Pez candy. Something about those horrible candies make it into your... Right? Like, people always talk shit about the candy corn, right? But everybody buys it. I would argue to say it's one of my favorites. I almost always argue every year, at least at one point throughout the year, we got to get ourselves some candy corn, right? But 9 times out of 10, everybody who you meet, that's the shittiest candy there is, right? Right? So anyway, back to Pez, right? Not a special candy, but the plastic toy, the toy-like dispenser somehow became this model of must-have. So we went bonkers as a society collecting them, right? And then, of course, the makers, because they were like, oh, hey, that worked. Right? We tried an idea. We wanted to spark a fad, and boy, did we, right? So now you get Star Wars Pez dispensers and Willy Wonka Pez dispensers and Lego Pez dispensers, every genre of Pez dispenser, right? And the Beanie Baby and the you name it, you Garbage Patch Kids, right? It's not a new thing, right? To where, like I said, a solid decade. No joke.
No, wait.
There are more.
Solid decade? The Beanie Babies go back to the 90s.
Hey, I'm just trying to maintain some no one could argue with you parameters,
okay.
right? Right? Like,
okay. I'm arguing it goes back to at least the 90s.
Oh, yeah, no. Because the premise that we're talking about, the premise of
manufacturers, I guess, weren't necessarily
targeting. Because the original premise being that is the toy market really for kids anymore, or how long has it been? Right? How long has it been for a greater majority of the toy market is actually going to this new phenomenon that we've heard of, KiDults, right? We're not adults, we're KiDults, right? Which I love. Right? We're so fucking clever as a species. I love when we come up with new cute shit like this. I mean, it's fantastic. How do you not get on board with that? I'm sure someone will come up with some way that it's actually gross, but who knows? Anyway, the premise that for at least a decade, the bulk majority of the toy market is actually the consumers in that market are adults, right?
Yeah.
I got to tell you, every time we're in a store, like we go down a Walmart aisle or a Target aisle or whatever, at the toy section, it's only ever adults in the toy aisle, right? Lego, Barbie, whatever, and yes, of course, people
for their kids.
Yeah, GF, of course, they're shopping for their kids, right?
Yeah.
I'm not an idiot. Of course that's true, right? But when was the last time you saw actual just kids in the toy aisle? It's not a thing anymore, right? So a lot of the driving of the purchasing of toys is driven towards adults, right? And it's a fascinating phenomenon that we were just recently hearing about. And he brought up how Legos is now doing this promotional thing where they, Legos is making these 18 plus adult toy packages or whatever they're called. I don't know, or whatnot, right? And
then the example was the Titanic.
The Titanic, right?
So is it 18 plus because?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like just because
pieces?
Of the difficulty and the 9,000 pieces. I don't know. Yeah, it definitely gives it's a weird marketing.
Yeah, maybe there were other
tactic
that
to take.
Just didn't share on
the yeah, and because I was kind of wondering when we saw that if it was, I was like, is that a marketing tactic of like this will draw more adult buyers when they think, oh, it's an 18 plus Lego set, oh, right? what's going to be in there, right? The most jagged sex toy you've ever seen.
Yikes.
Right? Yeah, it'll be interesting, but I like that it's a phenomenon that's happening. I like that the toy maker market is paying attention to the fact, and of course they probably always have been, right?
Yeah.
But I like that they are basically coming out in the open that they are making toys for adults and whatnot. Because one of the things I wanted to try and mention was how so many people buy all this toy type merch, right, from these various different conventions. There's a huge market for toy type merch for every type of convention, not just conventions that are about toys, right? And off the top of my head, I can't think of anything good. This is so bad of an example to bring up, right? But I'm like, pretty much any convention you go to, like, right, that big construction, that huge construction.
You mean? Are you talking about SEMA?
Yeah, in Vegas, is that SEMA's the one where they bring out all the big cranes?
No.
No, I'm talking the construction one. The construction one where they bring all the huge cranes and they set up all the heavy equipment and the concrete movers and blah, blah, blah. That whatever convention that is.
It's not every year.
If you went inside there, I guarantee you there would be bobblehead. There would be construction bobbleheads or crane-like bobble objects, bobble cranes, right? There is a toy type merch to be sold at every convention, and as we are always talking about and bringing up when we have our little rants and conversations and sessions here is everybody just wants to be at a fucking convention.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, we hate listening to people talk about war, right? Conflict. We've got to do what we can to back people out of these conflicts, right? Because everybody just wants to be at a convention. And you'll know what we say as it unfolds, right? But like, hillbillies go to conventions, cowboys go to conventions, prissy girls go to conventions, right? Gun people go to conventions, mermaids go to conventions.
They're not always called conventions.
Right?
They're trade shows.
Right?
They're...
Yeah. Conventions. Oh, no, sorry, no. No, sorry. Rodeos or carnivals or there's various
There's
different...
no shortage of names. What we mean...
Of places where,
we're just talking about large gatherings of people focused on a single type of thing. If you
think of it like this, where we're at right now, behind us, there's an event center, right? So just, if you think of any of the types of things, types of events that go on in your local or not so local, depending on where you live, right? But I mean, basically, any city with a population of 10,000 or more has some sort of event center, right?
Yeah.
And they're usually fucking booked doing something,
yeah.
Right? So that's what we're talking about, where there's always a convention of some sort that people want to be at, right? And then it's just a matter of, there are certain big ones that you hear about, like when you think of the normal common term, you would think of something like Comic-Con, right?
Yeah.
Where that gets sensationalized and understood as its own kind of phenomenon as its own kind of phenomenon that exists in the world, that is known because it's predominantly visited by all these nerds, and it has such sensationalized costuming and such sensationalized celebrity guests, right? So it's this world-known event, right? But that is just, in the comic world alone, that is one of 1,000 plus, probably. Can you even like ask Gemini what would be a basic, on average? Oh yeah, on average, globally, about how many comic book conventions would you guess take place?
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to see if it'll come up with a fast number here, but for a question so broad like that.
In the U.S., hosts hundreds of comic book conventions annually. And then there are also some in numerous countries across the globe: Canada, Mexico, Brazil, UK, blah, blah,
Well, yeah,
blah,
that
blah.
list will go on forever because I've literally seen there's almost every country has some sort of convention. You know, I mean, like we even accidentally.
It says exact figure hard to pinpoint. Conservative estimate would place the number happening globally in the range of several hundred to over 1,000.
Okay, yeah, so at least 1,000 probably. I would easily imagine.
This number is likely to increase in the future. And that's our whole point.
And that is our whole point, right? Because
that's our whole shtick.
more and more people just want to go to conventions, right? And
because we want to be around people who share our same interests.
Interests and the things that we like to do.
Whatever we want,
yeah.
You know, like.
Well, and more so because we are a happy primate. We want to be a happy primate. We don't do well in conflict, and we don't like conflict, which is why we always work so hard to get out of conflict. Because by and large, like we say, everyone just wants to be at a fucking convention, right? Whether that's my frisbee golf convention, right? Who amongst the frisbee golfers would not love to just put on their, what do they call them? Their disc bags? Put on their disc bag and follow, go on a frisbee golfing tour of Europe, right?
Yeah.
I was blown away to find out there are international competitions of frisbee golf. This is what I'm talking about, right? Don't you tell me no one wants to be at a convention. Yeah. What's this guy talking about? GF, I've never wanted to go to a convention before in my life. Really? Because I think you've attended 17 gun shows this year, so that's a convention, motherfucker, right? I think you've gone to 9 NFL football games this year. That's a convention, motherfucker. There's 45,000 people who are sitting there all thinking yes, 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 all thinking the same thing you're thinking, right? Because you are at a convention of your like-minded ilk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about. The natural state of this creature and our being is we want to be hanging out with others, having a good time, enjoying the things that we enjoy together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we need to be doing more of that. And our take on this new technology evolution that's happening of us going forward with into the realms of AI and automation through all this robotics and the advances that we have in machine learning and material sciences and all of this new stuff that is coming up. It is going to, we are not very far. And when we're talking experts are talking about 5 years being a pretty optimistic or pretty realistic goal, but maybe as far as 15 to 20 years out, right? But experts are saying, right, that we're not that far from essentially abundance living.
Yeah. And I'm anxiously awaiting for that to happen.
Yes, right?
But if you want to circle back to the Lego 18 plus toys, it's primarily their complexity, actually.
So that's what rates them, sure.
Over the 18 plus. There's some themes, but the themes that, at least according to Gemini, provided, they weren't really adult in the way that you think of when
you say adult themed, yeah.
Us, especially because we're very sexually apt.
Oriented people, yes, right.
Oriented. Well, maybe apt
too. Hey, we're sexually apt as well. Don't get me wrong.
But what I mean is, that's where our mind would
naturally go to. Yes, yeah.
But 18 plus really is just like the architecture and like.
Right. Yeah. There's that level of complexity where they're trying to indicate this is probably going to be more appreciated by the adult mind rather than the kid who's trying to have a good time with. A fucking steamboat. Thanks, Grandma.
I only scanned through the reply from Gemini, but I did catch the word geometry. So, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, you need to apply geometric principles to put together
okay, right. Oh, yes. Like being able to have a more advanced spatial recognition.
Like,
okay, yeah. That would make sense too.
They are much more complex.
Yes, yeah. You're not going to hand these over to your toddler and say, okay, build me this, what is it, 1850s or what, I don't know when the 1890s build me this classic steam vessel.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I'm pretty sure. I know there was a coal-fired.
Wait, what are you
The
saying?
Titanic. It was.
Oh,
I believe
Titanic
was it a steam
the
vessel?
early
Is what I'm saying.
1900s.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And
but I don't know.
I'm like, but I'm pretty sure it was a. Do they call it steam vessel? What are we doing? We're talking about the Titanic. Who cares? Oh no, I care about the Titanic. Don't get me wrong. I just mean the specificity of its mode of propulsion. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know. But so anyway, yeah. It'll be interesting to see where we end up going forward. But again, you know, people are worried about all this turmoil that's going on. I don't think we need to. I don't think we can ignore the turmoil. Don't get us wrong, right? Shit needs to be paid attention to, and like we're always saying, you know, your voice is your voice and your behavior, right? Treat people the way people should be treated, and that is kindly. Don't forget, we don't do anything alone, people. So treat each other kindly.
Yeah.
Right. And then and we're gonna create.
Pretty much every single group in society has some version of the golden rule.
Yes.
And we just don't actually live it or apply it.
We don't apply it as often as we should.
Treat others how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
So if you want to be
treated
like
nicely,
shit, I guess that's how. I mean, like that's I guess how most people want to be treated, but
right.
You don't really. It's just that's how you know.
Yeah.
That's all you know. But we gotta stop.
Yeah.
We gotta get back.
On the global scales, on the global thinking, we got to stop that. You know, I mean, like we people need to recognize that we are all the same species, and we all have the same wants and desires. We want to be safe. We want to be belly full, right? We want to be fucking, right? We want to be, you know, watching our progeny grow and develop and be successful in their endeavors. We want to be watching our innovations thrive, you know. And
we can't do that unless we treat people nice.
Yeah.
We got to treat people nice.
So let's keep on it, people.
Yeah.